The Great Flagpole Rebellion. It began with a letter. Not just any letter, mind you, but one in a beige envelope, the kind that screams trouble before you even tear it open. Beige is the color of bad news, the hue of dentist waiting rooms and soul-crushing office cubicles. On that crisp Saturday morning, that beige envelope sat in my mailbox like a smug little dictator, wedged between a pizza coupon and a credit card offer promising financial ruin in fine print. My name's Tom Harrison, a 52-year-old software engineer with a penchant for order and a deep-seated loathing for petty bureaucracy. I live in Meadowview Estates, a suburban slice of America so perfectly manicured it feels like a movie set. That morning, I was on my back patio, sipping coffee from a mug that read, "World's Most Mediocre Coder," watching the sun cut through the maple trees. The air smelled of fresh-cut grass, courtesy of my neighbor Jim, who mowed his lawn with the precision of a brain surgeon every Saturday at 8 a.m. sharp. The sprinklers hissed in unison, and the neighborhood hummed with the quiet conformity of a place that took its aesthetic uniformity seriously. Meadowview Estates was a community of aggressive politeness. You couldn't grab your mail without someone commenting on your hydrangeas or asking if your mailbox was regulation height. It was a beige kind of place, tasteful, predictable, and suffocating. My one act of defiance? A 20-foot aluminum flagpole in my front yard, proudly flying the stars and stripes. I'd installed it the previous week, a gleaming symbol of patriotism in a sea of taupe, siding, and identical shrubs. I thought it was a tasteful addition. The beige envelope disagreed. "What's that?" my wife, Laura, asked, stepping onto the patio with her own coffee. She had that uncanny ability to sense when I was about to spiral into a battle with authority. "Trouble," I said, holding up the envelope. It bore the logo of the Meadowview Homeowners Association, a single, inoffensive tree. "From the Ministry of Beige." Laura sighed, a sound honed over 25 years of marriage to a man who once argued with a DMV clerk over a license plate font. "Tom, please tell me you didn't park the car 2 inches over the driveway line again." "Worse," I said, ripping open the letter. "I think I've offended their sense of patriotic proportion." I unfolded the paper and read aloud in my best mock-serious tone. "Dear Mr. Thomas Harrison, this letter serves as formal notice from the Meadowview Estates Homeowners Association Standards Committee. It has come to our attention that a new structure, specifically one flagpole, has been erected on your property." Laura snorted into her coffee. "Standards Committee? Sounds like they meet in a bunker to debate paint swatches." I continued. "A complaint has been filed by a fellow homeowner. The concerns are twofold. 1. The structure is deemed out of harmony with the community's aesthetic uniformity. 2. Preliminary observations suggest the structure exceeds the 15-foot height restriction for ancillary yard structures, as stipulated in Bylaw 7, Section 4, Paragraph C. I looked at Laura, feigning horror. "Please remedy this violation within 14 days to avoid daily fines." Signed, Ronald Grayson, HOA President. Ronald Grayson. The name was infamous in Meadowview's online forums, where he was treated like a suburban boogeyman. Ronald, who reportedly measured a neighbor's grass with a ruler and issued a violation for being a quarter-inch too long. Ronald, who once proposed banning pickup trucks with mud on them because they looked too working class. Ronald was the enforcer of Meadowview's beige tyranny, and now his sights were on me. "He's saying my flagpole is too flagpole. Why?" I said, waving the letter. "This isn't about a pole, Laura. This is about control." "Easy, Thomas Jefferson," Laura said, patting my arm. "How tall is it?" 20 feet, I admitted. "Standard size. And the rule is 15 feet. Apparently, for ancillary yard structures. I'd argue the American flag isn't ancillary, but Ronald doesn't strike me as a man moved by symbolism." "So what's the plan?" she asked, eyeing me warily. I stared at the letter, at Ronald's neat, soulless signature. A spark of defiance ignited in my chest, not just anger, but something sharper, more creative. I could comply. I could ignore it. Or I could choose the third path, malicious compliance. "I'm going to war," I said, grinning. A polite, documented, gloriously petty war. That afternoon, I sat at my computer, Laura leaning against the doorframe. "Don't send a rant," she warned. "Oh no," I said, cracking my knuckles. "This calls for finesse." I drafted an email to Ronald Grayson, subject line, inquiry regarding excessive vertical patriotism. I asked for clarification on the term ancillary yard structure and whether a flagpole flying the American flag could be compared to a garden gnome. I requested details on the measurement protocol. Did the 15-foot limit start at the soil, the concrete base, or the curb? I hit send with a flourish. 17 minutes later, Ronald replied with a curt email, Mr. Harrison, the bylaw is clear. 15 feet. Ensure compliance by the specified date. Regards, Ronald Grayson. His brevity was a masterpiece of condescension. Gloves are off, I told Laura, who was now reading over my shoulder. He wants to play by the rules? I'll bury him in them. For 2 days, Ronald and I traded emails that could have been a sitcom script. I pored over the HOA bylaws, a document so dense it could double as a sleep aid. I became an expert in flagpole regulations, firing off questions about whether the decorative eagle atop my pole counted toward the height limit. Ronald's responses grew shorter, his tone icier. He started calling me Tom instead of Mr. Harrison, a clear power move. Then I made my boldest play. Intending to reply only to Ronald, I accidentally hit reply all, sending my email to the entire Meadowview mailing list. Dear Ronald and fellow residents, I wrote, I seek clarification on whether the HOA equates the American flag with a birdbath or a lawn flamingo. I want to ensure I'm not disrespecting Old Glory by removing it. The fallout was instant. My neighbor Mike, a laid-back salesman with a flair for drama, emailed me, You absolute legend. Others chimed in with support, sharing their own HOA grievances. Even Brenda, the neighborhood's self-appointed watchdog, sent a terse reply. Rules are rules. Ronald's response was a furious, all-caps email. Cease this email campaign immediately. I'd gotten under his skin. It was time to escalate. I called Liberty Flagpoles and spoke to a man named Carl. I need a flagpole exactly 14 feet, 11.75 inches, with certified documentation, I said. Carl chuckled. HOA trouble, huh? We called it the spite pole. I'll get it done. A week later, Carl's crew installed the new pole. It was perfect, gleaming in the sunlight. I stood there with a tape measure, ensuring every inch was compliant. Mike wandered over with beers. You're a hero, Tom, he said. The next day, Ronald appeared on my lawn, wielding a laser measure like a sci-fi weapon. He didn't knock, just aimed the device at my pole, scribbling notes on a beige clipboard. His audacity was stunning. I watched from my window, clutching Carl's certified document, feeling invincible. But the next day, another beige envelope arrived. Ronald had fined me $50 a day, claiming my pole was 15 feet, 1.5 inches tall, 1.5 inches over the limit. I was floored. Had the concrete settled? Was the eagle too proud? Laura was livid. 1.5 inches? He's making this up. My anger hardened into cold resolve. It's not about the inches, I said. It's about principle. Ronald's made a mistake. For 24 hours, my dining room became a war room. I pored over bylaws, zoning codes, and property surveys, muttering like a mad scientist. Laura left sandwiches and retreated. I was chasing a loophole, anything to outwit Ronald. Then I found it in Bylaw 7.4c. A structure is defined as any object erected or installed on a property with a fixed location on the ground. Fixed. My flagpole was fixed. A shed was fixed. But a crane? A crane was a vehicle, temporary, exempt from the bylaw. The idea was insane, glorious, and ruinously expensive. I explained it to Laura. Rent a crane to hoist a flag each morning, bypassing the fixed structure rule. Her reaction cycled from confusion to disbelief to pragmatism. This'll cost a fortune, Tom. And the noise? The driveway. I'll get a quiet crane, I promised. This is for freedom. She laughed, a tear in her eye. Ronald deserves this. Do it. I called crane companies. Most hung up, thinking I was pranking them. Then I reached Gus at Gus's heavy-duty haul. I laid out the saga Ronald, the emails, the 1.5-inch violation. Gus laughed, a deep, whiskey-soaked rumble. You want my 40-ton crane to raise a flag every morning to stick it to an HOA suit? Best thing I've ever heard. I'm in, and I'll cut you a deal for patriotism. At 4:45 a.m., I stood in my driveway, clutching a thermos and a folded flag. The street was silent, Laura watching from the doorway. Then I heard a low rumble, growing into a thrum of diesel power. A massive yellow crane rounded the corner, its amber lights flashing like a mechanical deity. Gus, a grizzled ex-Marine in his late 50s, parked it with surgical precision. "Morning," he grunted. "Let's raise some hell." He set up the outriggers, the crane humming softly. Brenda's blinds twitched across the street. She was already on the phone. Minutes later, Ronald's beige sedan screeched up. He stormed out in a silk bathrobe, hair wild, screaming, "Harrison, what is this madness?" I sipped my coffee. "Morning, Ronald. Just raising the flag. The old pole's gone, as you requested." "That's a monstrosity," he yelled, pointing at the crane. "It's a vehicle, Ronald," I said calmly. "Legally parked. The flag's just cargo. No fixed structure here." He sputtered, citing noise ordinances. Gus's voice crackled from the crane's speaker. "Engines off, pal. All electric till 7. Ronald's face turned purple. Then the police arrived, lights flashing. Officer Daniels, a weary veteran, and Officer Carter, a young rookie, stepped out. Ronald ran to them, ranting about codes and aesthetic terrorism. Daniels ignored him, eyeing the crane. "Explain," he said. I did, outlining the bylaw loophole. Daniels pinched his nose, clearly regretting his career choice. "Is it illegally parked?" he asked Ronald. "No, but is it breaking noise laws?" "Not yet," I said. "We start at 7:01 a.m. Daniels sighed. "Nothing illegal here." Ronald deflated as the sun rose, painting the sky pink. "Go ahead, Gus," I called. The crane's motor whirred, and the flag soared 50, 60, 70 feet high, catching the dawn's light. Everyone, Ronald, the cops, the neighbors creeping onto their lawns stopped, staring at the red, white, and blue. It was breathtaking. Daniels whistled. "All right, Harrison, you win." The aftermath was chaos. Mike posted a video online, titled "Neighbor Schools HOA with Crane." It exploded on our town's subreddit, dubbing me Flagpole Tom. A Facebook group, Friends of Flagpole Tom, gained 600 members. A local reporter quoted me, "I'm just a guy who loves the flag and follows the rules." At the emergency HOA meeting, Ronald proposed banning heavy vehicles. The packed room, usually empty, booed him down. Someone tossed a dinner roll at his podium. His bylaw failed spectacularly, and my fines vanished. I kept the crane for a week. Each morning, neighbors gathered with coffee and donuts for Gus, who became a local hero. On the final day, I tipped him generously. "You're a good man, Tom," he said, shaking my hand. "You're a great American, Gus," I replied. I installed a new 14-foot, 6-inch flagpole, fully compliant. Meadowview felt less beige, more alive. Laura and I sat on the patio, watching the sunset. "Miss the crane?" she asked. "It served its purpose," I said, grinning. But I was reading the bylaws on lighting. No limit on lumens for patriotic displays. She groaned, laughing. "You're incorrigible. What do you think, folks? Was I right to fight Ronald's petty tyranny, or did I go too far with the crane?" Share your thoughts in the comments, especially on dealing with injustice or overreach in your own life. Have you faced a Ronald of your own? Let's hear your stance.